I wonder who Susan was, and why was she so lazy? Welcome back everyone to the KB Cabinet channel. My name is Rob, and today on part 1 of how to build a Lazy Susan cabinet the KBC way, I'm going to be doing just that. I'm going to show you guys how we over here at KBC Cabinets build our Lazy Susans. I say the KBC way because most of you know that there are multiple ways to build a Lazy Susan cabinet. So I'll just be going over how we do it and what we found to be successful. And I do a lot of these this way. In Northwest Arkansas, we have found that most people want this style of Lazy Susan, where the doors are fixed to the inside of the shelf. As the shelf rotates, it lines back up with the face frame. Some of you might be in other parts of the country where what people want is a little different. Here's a full pie style, where the doors are hinged, you open up and you have a full pie. There's different types of hardware out there, so we're going to be focusing on this style. I'm going to be using VCarve Pro like always. I find that it sets me up for the CNC, and it has good visualization features when I do these videos. So enough of me rambling on like an idiot. Let's get going. All right, so we're looking top down at our cabinet. Yes, I have my Crayolas. Nothing like a good doodle session on a Sunday morning in November. At any rate, here we are. So if we take a look at what we got going here on we have an 1.5 inch style. There's gonna be a 1/4 inch lip here, 1/2 inch, 3/4. Overall, we're gonna be an 1.5 inch. Next, we're gonna come over to a 11.5 or 11.25 section, sorry. And then this section here is gonna be 10.5 because it sits right up against that one, so that's why that's shorter. And then another 1.5 inch style, same 1/4, 1/2 inch, 3/4. The height of the styles are going to be 31.5. So 31.5 tall. If you'll notice, our tops and bottoms are butt jointed into the face frame. So there's no dado or anything. And the reason that is because it's kind of challenging. If you were to try to create a dado here and then, you know, a dado in there, it's a lot of work, and then building the frame. So we found that just butt joining it up is probably the way to go, at least for us. You got 1/2 inch material all the way around this puppy. Our sides are 1/2 inch, our tops and bottoms and our backs are 1/2 inch. Our tops and bottoms they're identical, except for the bottom. We actually extended out a 1/2 inch here and a 1/2 inch that way, and then I create a channel. We dado it down, and that's gonna give a ledge for the backs to sit in, and also we dado into the sides. So anyway, that's a look, kind of an overview of the frames. All right, so here we have the cabinet tipped on its side so we can see how the toe kit goes together. And this process it's super simple. It's 3.5 thick. It's 3/4 inches thick, but 3.5 wide. And then we just cut a strip to go all the way down to the bottom to a flush, and then a piece that flushes on the back, and then this piece just tees into that. So nothing complicated there. All right, so we're in VCarve. I went ahead and I ran a 3D simulation so we can see what we're going to build. These are the tops, bottoms, and then both sides. We're not going to be able to get everything on one sheet of plywood, so we're going to focus on the tops, bottoms, and sides first, and then we'll do the bottoms, the backs, sorry. All right, so if we take a look at what we got going on here, here's the top of our cabinet, here's the bottom. You can see, like I pointed out earlier, there's the backs are going to come all the way down, so here's this bottom dado shelf. So that looks good. It's going to be on the back side. If we come to the wall ends or the cabinet ends, We've got our Dado 1/2 inch that's going to run along the top for our top, 1/2 inch down the back for our back, and then down here is the Dado that's going to be for the floor of our cabinet. So everything looks good here, so let's start building it. Alright, now that we are in the main screen of VCarve, we're going to come over here and select create a new file. And you don't need VCarve to do this. If you're watching this video and you're planning to do it manually, you can just go by the dimensions, make notes of the dimensions. So definitely don't need to go through VCarve to do this, but that's what we're going to do, what I'm going to do. So on job setup, we want it single-sided. Width is 96 by 48. I'm going to be using 4x8 sheets of plywood at 1/2 inch thick. Everything else looks good. I'm going to hit OK. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to come up here to layers. I'm going to rename layer 1 to base layer. I'm just going to put base. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to create the Dado, or say Dado. We'll name this, we'll change this color to, it's like a blue. I like colors. Alright, we're going to make sure we have our base layer selected, and we're going to come over here to create a vector. We'll draw a rectangle. Make sure this bottom left anchor point selected and everything's zeroed out. And then down at the X, we're going to put 19.5 for the X and 35 for the Y. We do our kitchen cabinets, our base cabinets. Our standard is 35 inches to the top. Some people do it a little different. There's 34.5. So whatever you need for your height, that's what you're going to go off of. So we're going to hit create. First thing I'm going to do is close this out. And we're going to right click. Doesn't matter where you click, but we're going to create a guide. We're going to create two guides. We're going to do a horizontal guide and a vertical guide. So first let's do the horizontal. We're going to come over here and we're going to say 3.5 inches for new position and hit apply. Close this out. Come over here, right click, we're going to do vertical guide. And in that, on this guide, we're going to do 2 3/4. 2.75. And this is going to give us our little notch for the toe kick. So now that we got that, I'm going to turn snapping on. I'm going to get my draw line tool, and we're just going to trace those guides that we just made. Alright, if I right click, if I go to view, say delete all guides, turn snapping off, and see there we have our toe kick or our notch out. And so we want to take those scissors, interactive trim, and just hover them over and give it a click, and there you go. So that is the basic shape of our wall end. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up here to base and we're going to put in the dados. And the reason I like the layers is because everything that's blue, I'm going to know that that's going to be a dado. So let's right click again. We're going to use another guide, or a couple of guides. So let's do the horizontal guides first. So this guy is 35 tall, so let's come 34.5. Hit apply. Alright, there's our top dado. Let's do that again for our bottom dado. This one we're going to come 3.5 inches from the bottom. Hit apply. That looks good. And then the last one is going to be for our back rabbit, or back dado. And this was 19.5 wide, so let's go 19. And so that's going to give us 1/2 inch from the back. And from here, let's turn snapping back on. Let's turn our line tool. We're going to follow that guide all the way to the very back. We're going to do it for each one of these guides. Just like that. Boom.
Alright, so if we turn our snapping off, we go to view, guides, delete all guides. There we go. So that's essentially our wall end. And so this is the left. And what we want to do is we also need a right. Make sure to save your project every so often, so just in case something happens you don't lose anything. But so we're going to select everything. We're going to go to edit, copy, edit, paste. You can drag it over or you can use the arrows. Either way. Alright, and now that we've got two, we need to mirror this one so that way it becomes a right end. So we're going to go to mirror. We're going to flip horizontally. And that's it on that. So now you can see that, you know, if this was the left end, that this is going to be the right end. Alright, so we're going to make our tops and bottoms now. So we're going to go back to the rectangle and we'll start with the top. So we're going to go 31 inches by 31 inches. Hit create. And we didn't change it to our main layer, but that's okay. We're going to right click, click the line, right click, move to layer, move to base. Alright, now we're black. Alright, so we need to cut that notch out for the face frame. So we're going to create a vertical guide and we're going to create a horizontal guide. So our vertical guide, we're going to come in, we want to come in 12 1/4. And then we want to create a horizontal guide. We want to come up 12 1/4. Let's close that out. Let's get our line tool. And again, we want to be on that base layer for this. So let's get rid of, what am I doing? What's going on here? Guides, delete all guides. We've got move to base layer. Get our scissor tool. Alright, there we go. Alright, so this is our top. And so this distance here should be 12 1/4. And then this distance from here to here should be 18 3/4. So yeah, 18 3/4 there. And 12 1/4 there. So we're good there. Alright, so that is our top. So let's just move this. Let's just move this over for now. And we can either copy and paste this one and make adjustments to this one, or we can just make a new one. And so we're going to go 31 1/2 and 31 1/2. And we're going to do the same process for that notch. So let's go ahead and handle that first. So let's go vertical, 12 1/4. Let's go to our horizontal, right click, 12 1/4. Okay, hit apply. Get our line. Okay, and then let's get our tool, our scissors, cut that, and we'll delete that guy, and we'll delete. Let's come over here to the layers, select the Dado layers, and let's right click, put a horizontal guide, and this is 31 1/2, so we want to go 31, and we want to go 31 as well in the vertical guide. Alright, that is going to give us our lines for that back dado. I've got the dado layer selected. I'm going to get my line tool. I'm going to come all the way down to the end. I'm going to do that again. All the way down. Alright, just like that. And I'm going to go to View, Guides, delete all guides. And that is our tops and bottoms and wall ends. Let's see if we can. It's like Tetris, trying to get them arranged on the plywood. Now that I got it rearranged where all the parts are on the plywood, one thing you can do is, if you are doing this on VCarve, is you can add, I added this line to do a waist cut. If it's wide enough to get used later, it's always good to add that waist cut, because if you don't, you're going to have this whole sheet, these pieces are all going to be connected, so it can be kind of a funny shape trying to get it off. So it's always good to keep waist in mind. And that's it for the tops, bottoms, and the wall ends, so let's move on to the backs. Alright, so I created a new project for the backs, and this represents a new sheet of plywood. Backs are pretty, this is going to be quick because the backs are easy. We're going to come to the create rectangle, and we're going to do 31 by 31 1/4. And that is literally it. That's all we're doing for the backs. So let's hit edit. We're going to do copy, edit, paste, and we'll just drag this guy. Well, I'm going to use my arrows, and there. That is it for the backs. Now the one thing that I always do, and I think it's good, is we want to make sure that we get our waist, at least the usable parts, separated out. So it just depends on what, whatever piece of the waist is more valuable to you. But like, for example, we'll come down here and we'll make that cut there, so that's a usable piece. And then we can come back and, well, too close, but we're close, not too close, and then run this cut all the way down. And so once it cuts out these two pieces, then the machine's going to come and it's going to cut those out, so we can save those as usable scrap. So the last thing that we have to do is, if you're sticking with me because you're using VCarve, we're going to go on to assigning the tooling. If you're just interested in the dimensions and the construction method, you probably don't need to worry about how to export it to the CNC. But if you are, we'll go ahead and we'll look at that now. So we're going to go over here to the little blue arrow. We're going to switch to tool paths, and I'm going to come up to my let's see here, what do I want to do? First thing we want to do, we're going to click this line, that vector, and we're going to come to tool profile path. And depending on your tool library is going to be very different from mine, so you might not be able to follow me directly, depending on how yours is set up. Like I have a 3/8 compression tool that I use to do all my cutouts. So on this particular one, that's what we're going to assign. We're going to do outside, so we want to make sure the tool is going outside of that vector. And we'll just leave it as profile 1. We're going to come back into 2D view and make sure that, so these pink lines are our actual part, and we want to make sure these tooling lines are on the outside of that, which it is. So let's hit close. And we're going to do that exact same thing on the second set of lines. And so make sure, double check. And if we come to 3D, you can do preview all tool paths. And there we have it. That is the two backs for our Lazy Susans. So let's get started assigning the toolpaths to these parts. So we're going to go to toolpath commands, and we're just going to start left to right. Let me get rid of these guides. We don't need these. So the first thing I'm going to do, we'll just go ahead and we'll start with the Dado. And we want to do 1/2 inch material. We only want to come down 1/4 inch. And we're going to select I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch end mill. Your tool might be different, but either way that needs to be a 1/2 inch. This is a little bit trial and error, but let's start with the inside, and we'll see how it goes. So we're going to name this bottom _ Dado. We'll do A, because there's going to be 2 of them. Hit calculate. Do that. And let's take a look at it. And that's what we want. We want it on the outside of that pink line. So let's close this out and let's do the same thing here. And let's go bottom Dado, and let's go B. And I'm going to hit calculate. Let's take a look at it. Alright, that looks good. That tooling line is on the outside, just like what we want. Alright, so we're going to do all the Dado tooling first, and then we'll come back and we'll worry about cutting it out. So let's come over here to our left end and let's take a look at this Dado we want. So 1/4 inch. So we're going to do left, L for left. L for left. We'll do end, and we're going to put Dado, and I'm going to put bottom. And I'm not sure which one of these I want yet, so I'm going to hit calculate, and I'm going to come back and make sure it's on the right side. And that's exactly where I want it. We want the tooling above that pink line. Go to up here, we're going to click that. Let's say 1/4 inch, so let's say left, and Dado, top. I'm going to hit calculate, come to our 2D view, and see, this is not what I want. I need this tooling line to be on the other side. So I'm going to double click that, and I'm going to just switch this to the inside left. I'm going to hit calculate. And that's what we want. Alright, so let's come to the rabbit. And I know it's under Dados, but I'm going to go ahead and call this one a rabbit. And I'm going to leave that. I'm not sure what I need yet. I'm sure if I did this long enough, I would know exactly which one to pick, but I got a lot of stuff on my mind, so it's easier for me to just try it, and then if it doesn't work, then try the other one. So let's do left end, rabbit, and we'll do calculate. Not what we want. We'll double click it, we'll go to the outside, and that looks good. Yep, so that all looks good. So let's go to the right end. So start at the bottom, and so let's say right and Dado, bottom. Alright, that looks good. So let's go to the top. I know I'm going to need to switch the vectors. So right and Dado, top. Oh, got me again. I didn't need to. I should have left it on the outside. Just like that. Alright. So then let's go to the right end rabbit. Let's see. The right end rabbit. What's up, Doc? And that is not what we want, so let's go to inside, hit calculate. And that looks good. So it looks like we got all our dados. We go to 3D. Preview all tool sets. So we can kind of see what we're doing here. So it's starting to come together. Let's go back to 2D. So the last thing we got to do is just start cutting this stuff out. So I'm going to come over to my profile cut. So we need to go back to the depth, and we want to go all the way through this time. So I'm going to use, I use a 3/8 compression, and so that's what I'm going to use. So we're going to be on the outside, and I name these the exact same every time, so you guys can name it different. I just do what I'm used to. So we're going to go to bottom. I'm going to say cut through. Calculate. That looks good. Looks like exactly what we want. So we go back to the top. Same thing. Top. Cut through. Let's come back to the Z, straighten that up. Again, still looking good, so we'll come over to our left end. So left end. G8 left end cut through. That looks good, looks like what we want. And so the last one of the parts is going to be a right end cut through. Cut through, and looking good. And so the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to do this waist cut. It's going to be the same exact tool. Call it waist cut through. And that looks good. Let me just put that to the other side just in case it's getting a little close to that top. Alright, that looks good. So if we come to 3D, reset preview, preview all tool paths, should get what we want. So if we double click, you can start getting rid of the waist. So that's the waist. So that's what we want. That's what we ended up with. Everything should go together. That's going to be it for part 1. Thanks for watching up to this point, and we'll see you in part 2 where we go over the doors, how to mount the doors to the hardware, and how to mount the hardware itself. So we'll see you next time.